Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Laurel Rutledge's human-centered approach, empathy, and understanding of individual needs make her a top-notch personal advisor and women's leadership coach. Her care and compassion have made her an indispensable guide for countless women navigating the next phases of their lives and careers. Add that to her intimate knowledge of the HR landscape, and it becomes clear why her HR clients have had such transformative experiences. Just as Rutledge has helped countless others get out of their rut and off the ledge, so too can she help you. After receiving her MBA, Laurel Rutledge moved from accounting and consulting to human resources, driven by a desire to do good in a business environment. It quickly became apparent that the switch had been a good choice. She flourished professionally and became happier, satisfied with the difference she could make through her work. After a 30-year career, she left the corporate world, but her passion for HR and helping others has only grown. Now she works one-on-one with clients, leveraging their experience in leadership and personal development to help them get the most out of their lives and careers. From her beginnings as a consultant at Deloitte to her time as VP of HR at Covestro, Rutledge has seen more sides of the business world than most. She's achieved technical mastery of HR with a deep knowledge of the rules and regulations that must be followed. She's also a people person, perspective, and outgoing, with a sixth sense for helping others to see the difference between what they want and what they need. The accumulation of this is her personal philosophy: lead with your heart, act with your head. Welcome, Laurel. Okay, thank you so much for joining us, Laurel. It is great to have you on the show. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to speak with you this morning.
Yes, and I am too. I've not been in the corporate world for a while. Before I was there, I was in a leadership position, so I dealt with human resources a bit. So I was reading over your bio, and as we talked before leading up to this, and some of the other things I've done for you in the past, I'm very familiar with human resources. And I really think it's really interesting how you've moved out of that field. What you're doing right now is the whole way you transformed your career, and how you're helping other people do that also. I think that's fascinating. So just to catch all of our listeners up, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you're helping your clients. Exactly like the kind of outcome you're helping them achieve, what you're doing, the problems you're helping them solve.
Sure. Great. Thank you so much. And I would start with that. The outcome is helping people get to a point where they're no longer feeling crazy or overwhelmed or like their success is in peril when they've been successful before, and being in that stagnant place where they really don't know what to do, and getting them to a point where they're like, you know what, I have a plan, I know where I'm going to go, and I know what steps I need to take to get there. And it's really hard to do that by yourself when you're in overwhelm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's hard. And the way I do that is because, I consider myself a mud, right? My undergrad is in accounting, and I've done internal audit. I worked with one of the big professional services firms doing enterprise risk management for global companies. And then I ultimately moved into HR. And what all of that crazy trajectory did was give me a platform, a way of looking at business, a way of looking at career progression, a way of looking at roles versus fit versus skills versus competencies that really translate into what makes sense for the person. So, I always believe that to be a good HR person, you have to be a good business person, because if the business isn't working, then nobody has a job, right? So it's really about taking all of that stuff, focusing on the individual to say, let's reframe all this frustration and feelings of craziness to focus back on what you really want. And then let's make a plan to help you get there and not just hurt yourself because you're frustrated.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great. And what's your solution to that problem? How do you begin to work with people to determine that, to help them reach that solution?
So I start very simply. I have a process, I call it the Rutledge perspective tree, that I've trademarked. And if you think about a tree and how a tree functions, there's the root system of a tree. And then you have the trunk of the tree, which is kind of the vascular system of the tree. And then you have all the branches with the leaves and the flowers or the fruit or whatever. And we start very simply by saying, let's look at your root system. What are the things that really, really nourish you? What drives you? What are the things that are really, really important to you? And once you understand that foundation, because those are the things that then give you strength, right? They give you your competencies, they give you your skills, they give you those things that you want to put out into the world. And so we start with that foundation. And then based on the foundation, then I start asking some really deep questions about, okay, well, if this is what really matters to you, then let's talk about what you're doing and how that supports what really matters to you. And if it supports what really matters to you, it enables you to be strong enough to put out those things that give back. Because if you think about a tree as well, it grows up, it puts out leaves and fruit, those fall to the ground, they re-nourish the roots, right? And it starts all over again. It's a cyclical process. And so if you know what your root system is, if you know what your foundation is and how strong that's seated in you, then everything you evaluate and everything you decide on, you can have a lens to say, ultimately, this is going to get me where I need to be. This is going to help me make sure I'm taking care of my family. This is going to help me be sure that I am living in my values. This is going to help me make sure that I am traveling and giving back to the world. Everything then becomes a lens through how do I continue to nourish me so that I can help other people. As Holly Dowling says,
Right.
Sometimes you got to be a little selfish in order to be selfless.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. And how do people get to that point? Like, I assume people get out and they start working, they start in their career, they're happy, they're doing well. Is there anything like you see a trend that leads up to people becoming in that spot where they get into that rut and are unhappy and are ready for a transformation?
Yeah, it's, there's so many things that you can read now. Harvard Business Review has put out several articles around, burnout, and especially for women, because I really, really see this a lot in women, and more so in men now that they're acknowledging and identifying it. But there's this issue of, as we go into corporate, we've all been kind of nurtured to, grow up, you go to school, you get a job, you work for someone else, you progress up the corporate ladder. I mean, that's still a thing, right? Progress up the corporate ladder. Even from a millennial's perspective, you really want to continue to get more and more responsibility, have more and more
Right.
work, right? Bigger and bigger titles. And on that train, it stops being about what you want, what really drives you, what's a good fit for you, and what everyone else is telling you you're supposed to want. And so it's just habit. It gets to be habit. I'm supposed to have this job, and I'm supposed to be a manager for this long. I'm supposed to be a senior manager for this long, and I'm supposed to be a vice president, and I'm supposed to maybe move to another company so I can get a broader role. But it's all about titles and position, and not necessarily the work that you're doing and the joy that you are getting from your work, and the things that you are putting out there that make it different. And so what I find when I talk to people who have reached this is they are people who've been very successful, or they've done the thing that they were quote unquote supposed to do. And now they're still doing the same things, but it doesn't feel right. They're either, now they've got a boss that doesn't really see their skill, or they're not as fulfilled as they were, or they feel like they're working harder and harder, but they're not getting as far. And so while they feel like they haven't changed, the environment and the way success is being mirrored back to them is different. And they don't know what to do about that. And unfortunately, we don't really take the time to think about, and I'm spreading peanut butter here because there are some people who do this very well, but
Right.
most of us don't take the time to really say, what is it that I really want to do? Or when things aren't feeling right, that we don't sit in that and say, well, why is it not feeling right? We just push through. And I'll give you a prime example. If I look at my career, again, I started in accounting, and I didn't love accounting. I wanted to be a psychologist, and my dad was like, you got to get a job, honey. So I did accounting. And as I moved through everything, I would go into a job and it would be really exciting and I'd have a good time. And then I'd get bored because accounting, you do those same journal entries every month, and, it's just over and over. And I get really bored. And then I moved to something else, and I did cost accounting. That was really exciting because you were more tied to the product. And then I was like, well, that isn't really it. And then I did an MBA in operations and international business and finished that in Barcelona because I wanted to be functionally fluent in Spanish. And that was exciting. And then that got kind of boring. And so what I wasn't paying attention to was, it wasn't that the work was any different. It was that there was something disconnected between what my real desire was, where my real skills and aptitudes were, and the work I was actually doing. And that's what led me here, is that I'm able to, because of this breadth of experience, because every time somebody said, well, why don't you try this? I was like, sure, why not? I'm now able to connect dots that most people don't connect. I'm able to listen to what people say and really somehow retain a lot of the details of what they say and replay that back to them with a lens that opens up a whole different dialogue that they would not have been able to do on their own. So it's breaking that habit of just do it, just push through. It's what you're supposed to do, because not everyone is supposed to have the same career. Not everyone is supposed to be the vice president. Not everyone is supposed to be the accountant. And how do you find what your niche is in the madness? Even if that niche is, you know what, I am working because what I really love to do is work at these nonprofits. And by working at this job gives me an ability to have more control over my time and to fund the things I want to do outside of that. And that's okay too. I'm all about no judgment. I just want the people that I work with and the clients I work with to be really clear about what it is they want and then why they're doing what they're doing. Don't just run blind, because then you never really know what you're doing or where you're going. If you can at least have a direction, then you can consciously be making decisions. Oh, that doesn't feel right, but it is on the path where I'm going to go. So let me just move through this. Or that doesn't feel right and it's off the path. I need to do something different.
Okay, that makes sense to have that. All comes down to that root system you were talking about earlier.
Yes.
That's where that starts. That makes perfect sense. So what are some things that I've noticed in my the marketing and entrepreneur world that I do consulting in? There are generally people I work with. Before they work with me, there's some myths that are out there that the industry spreads, the media spreads about. Mm-hmm. Or I'm sure it's the same way with you. So if people are out there and they're it's like some potential client of yours, they may have some myths in their head that come from the either the media or in the industry about the career transformation. Maybe it's that it's too late, they can only do it once, or that it's not for them. What are some common? What's like a really common one you see out there? What's the biggest one, or a few biggest?
Wow. Yeah. Well, there's two really big ones.
Okay,
one on the personal side is that if I make a change that isn't a change, quote unquote, up, I am ruining my career. And that's simply not true. It is really important to have a broad perspective of what a career is. I heard a woman who worked for Marathon Oil say they no longer talk about career path. They talk about career flow, because you can do many, many things in the course of a career. But when we tell ourselves that we have a career path, we start to lock ourselves into steps, as opposed to leaving ourselves open to possibilities. And I never would have thought that I'd be doing consulting on enterprise risk management, or that I would have been working in some of the companies I worked in had I just said, oh, nope, you've got to be an accountant or you've got to do HR. I went because things seemed like they would be interesting. There was always going to be something I could learn. And I was willing to take a risk to find something different. So that's the big one. It's about a career flow, an overall career that could be 20, 30, 40 years. Give yourself the opportunity to be flexible and think about flow as opposed to path. The other thing is, and this really happens on the corporate side, and why I think working with people around their careers and around their decisions, and career, by the way, is not just corporate. It could be entrepreneur. It could be nonprofit. It could be just something you do outside of everything, right? It is bigger than just that 9 to 5. In the corporate arena, often people would bring in career advisors or career coaches or outplacement services, and it sometimes has a bad connotation because it's like, oh, we've got a problem person, so we're going to get them a coach.
Right.
Well, that's not what this is. That's not what I do. And I actually have had some people come to me and say, well, we've kind of got this problem. We need somebody to coach them. And I have really tough conversations in this situation to say, if you are looking for ammunition to remove someone, I'm not your person. If you all are trying to find out collectively if there are some things that can be done differently to move this career back on path, then yeah, we can talk about that. So don't get caught up in what you're hearing about people doing career advisory or coaching. Look for someone who works for you, who matches what you need, who speaks your language, who is not going to be so afraid of losing your business that they don't tell you the truth. Because you don't have to be ugly to be candid.
Right.
But if you're going to spend the money on someone who is truly going to have your best interest, which means they are willing to tell you when you are thinking or acting or moving in a way that may not be congruent with what you've told them you want. You don't want a yes person in your advisor or in your coach.
Right. For sure. Yeah. I love your term career flow. I'm a word person, and just small changes in words like that. I absolutely love stuff like that. It just, when my brain works, it just completely opens up so much to me. Small words like that, I absolutely love.
Words matter.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other things so we talked about some of the myths out there. What are some fears that when people come to start working with you and about going through and making that career transformation? What are some fears they have? Is just, what if it doesn't work? What are other people going to think about me? Right. What's my personal risk for doing that? What are some things that, someone out there listening right now that's thinking about this?
Right.
What fears do you think they have right now, and how can they get past them?
Sure. So, it's very interesting because a lot of our action is based in fear. I'm afraid of what people will think if I get a coach or an advisor. I'm afraid that I will make the wrong decision. I am afraid to do something different. I'm afraid of the fact that I feel like I've lost my mind or that I'm no longer being successful. You name it. It just runs the gamut of what people are afraid of, when the real fear is the fear that's associated with, it doesn't feel right. And what am I willing to do to try to get it to feel right? Because I don't know what that would be. Right. And that might be telling me I've got to take a lateral move or even take a step down to get where I want to be. Or that may mean I have to leave this team that I love because this place just isn't working for me. And when we're confronted with the real possibility of actually taking action, that can be really scary, because then the ball's in our court. We can't blame anyone else, right? We can't put it on anyone else. We have made a conscious decision either to move or not to move. But I'm telling you, even with all of that fear, by doing nothing, you are choosing. So don't believe you're not making a choice by still sitting in your pain, because it's not worth it. As you've mentioned a couple of times, my tagline is I really want to get you out of your rut or talk you back up that ledge. And I've been on both. I've been on both. And so there's no reason to be in pain. If I can help people no longer be in pain and to really sit in comfort with where they are, what they want, where they want to go, and how to get there, I feel like I have made an impact.
Absolutely. And following up with that, then, do you have an example of how you've helped either clients or even a specific client overcome those obstacles and actually have a successful career transformation, like a good story?
Sure. So I have a person that I worked with recently who I'd actually known for quite a while, and we'd stayed in touch over the years. And then I got a call one day and said, okay, look, I am in a situation that I am about to probably make a decision that is not the right decision to make. And I kept thinking about what I was going to do. And finally I said, wait, I know somebody who can help me with this. Let me call Laurel. And the situation was this. This is a person who has incredible talent, and really had a desire to help and to make an impact, but kept getting in these situations with either leaders or colleagues who didn't have kind of the same value system. And because of where her mindset was, she would immediately think, okay, well, they're just not going to do what I need them to do, and it's just time for me to go. And so we spent some time together and started again with that why. What are the real things that drive you? What makes you happy? What is it that you really want to do? What makes you grounded? And then what do you want to deliver? And we went through that first. And I have people do that in the context of really spending some time in their heart decision, right? So if you say, I want to help people, but what does that mean? We really dig deep into that. And so we dug deep into the things that she wanted to do. And one of them was really helping and giving back. And she loved education and all of these things. So then we came back over time and started talking about the situation that she was in at the time. and how that either did or did not support what she really felt like was her calling. And as we kept having conversations and I kept asking questions, because my role is not to tell you what your job should be. My role is to ask you enough questions so that you get really clear on what your next move should be.
Right.
And it turns out, while this person was someone who was in the HR space, but really kind of on the technical side and exceptional at that, what was really driving her was this real desire to help people through those processes of HR that really touch people at a base level, right? So making sure that people understand what benefits they have, making sure people understand, their EAP process, making sure people are connected to the organization in a way that touches their tactical stuff. And so as we moved through that with her, she also started talking about how she loves working with students and she loves working with processes around how do we design things that work better in organizations. She had already gotten her doctorate at one point. She was very highly skilled, highly educated, highly certified. And at the end of our time together, she said, you know what? Now I realize ultimately what I really want to be doing is I want to be in a university setting where I am building new skills and broadening new minds about what human resources really is and how we really help. It's not just about that tactical pushing paper. It's about how we create systems and processes that touch the hearts of people, that make their lives easier, but also connect them to the things that are important to them. And she said, I never would have connected what I love to do and how I love to give with the things that I can still do through this role. And now I can put all of that into context, and I'm not so frustrated by the meeting that I sit in that's stupid, or by the person I talk to that doesn't seem to get it, or by all of these attitudes that I get, because I can see the bigger picture. I know where this fits into my overall plan and how I can focus on the skills that I'm getting through this new flow of my career, and how that is ultimately going to enable me to give back even more and impact even greater. So I was probably more moved than she was. I was just thrilled because I'd known this person, but she really had some insight through our work together to give herself credit for what she knew and to own and call out loud what she really wanted, and then make a plan to get there, which actually did not include just walking away and hurting herself, right? Because that's what we do sometimes. We need to get away from the pain so badly that we just walk away. And sometimes you need to do that, but most of the times we don't. We move out of desperation. So she was back from desperation. She was now into clarity and focus, and she could make a plan that made sense for her, made sense for her family, and moved her along the path that she knew was where her heart's desire was. It was fantastic. I was really excited. That's what drives me, is hearing people get to their why, get to their real why, and then create a career around that, create work around that matches what they need when they need it. And it changes over time. And so she is in a great space right now. In fact, I just talked to her a couple weeks ago, and she is just on cloud nine. It's awesome to see.
Oh, that's great. I love stories like that. I love stories like that too. So what inspired you to become an advisor and do this? What was there a short story, specific event or something that really just propelled you to this?
I mentioned earlier that even along my career, every time I kept doing something, like it would feel right for a while, but then it just didn't.
Right.
Something just didn't work. And all throughout my career, even when in my first job, I was always in some capacity advising people, or in some capacity having these conversations that were kind of HR related, even if I wasn't in HR, or training people or coaching people or counseling, although not specifically as a counselor, but, giving people counsel on some things, advising people. And I got to a place in my own career where I thought, I am traveling 80%. I didn't sleep on a Sunday for 5 years. I was miserable. It was taking a toll on my mental, physical health, on my family. It just wasn't working. And I thought, wait a minute, I have a choice. And I spent some time saying, what is it that I really want to do? What are the things that I've done in my career that have made an impact, but that also tap into my innate skills and abilities? And this was it. And I decided to just step out on faith and started my business. And so I am now advising people. And like I said, in particular, women although I work with men as well, but in particular women, because we tend to bury those and think we're just crazy. There's nothing wrong in the environment. It's just us, which may or may not be true. And seeing them move and get out of that pain and get out of frustration and seeing the light come back, right? And the fire come back. And doing that with them in their careers. And also, in the same vein, now also helping small business owners as they just start out, thinking about that HR piece, right? And how they do that well as they begin to grow their businesses, and how they as leaders think about those same things for them as they move from either from corporate into entrepreneurship, or as they just start their businesses and decide how they want to show up every day. So it was about spending some time with myself saying, okay, if it isn't working, you can either sit in this misery or you can do something about it, because doing nothing means it keeps happening. What is it? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome.
Yes.
Right? So
right.
I could keep doing that, or I could do something about it. And I decided to do something. And it has been just amazing. I've met some amazing people, have seen some amazing changes and some amazing transformations. And I love seeing people get happy and comfortable, or get, at least, even if it's not happy, they finally get comfortable and clear. It's all about clarity. My words for this year are clarity, conviction, and compassion. You have to give yourself a break and give yourself some grace, because this is not easy. None of us gets through this life unscathed, right? We all have some kind of scars. How do we just move through them and learn from them and keep pushing forward? Because forward movement is what you're looking for.
Yep, absolutely. No, that's good. So we're getting wrapping up here pretty quick, but what's an important question that professionals ask themselves as they consider working with a career transformation advisor like yourself? What's like what's important they should consider when looking at somebody like you?
One of the most important things to consider is, are you really ready? Because it's work. It is work. It is deep personal work. So the first thing you really need to think about is, am I really ready to do something different? And then the second thing, and if not as important, it's really close second, is if I'm going to invest in ridding myself of this pain or getting really clear or doing something different, then I need to give myself time to really explore and find the person or the persons or the program or what have you that works for me. Because we all offer something different. And just because your best friend uses someone doesn't mean that's the same person that will work for you. And you should not feel bad or upset or in any way less than because the same person doesn't work for you that works for someone else. Give yourself the grace and give yourself the opportunity to find the person that connects with you, that gets you, and that you feel you can develop an honest and truthful connection with to get to your ultimate goal, because it is not about them. Going to an advisor, a coach, a counselor is about you. It is not about them. So give yourself the gift of really being discerning and picking your person.
Perfect. That is great advice. So if someone's finding more about you and how you can help them, where should they go? What should they do?
Sure. So really easy to find, laurelrutledge.com. And when you go to my website, there is, you'll see some videos and things, but there's also a place where you just click on personal advisory services, and we can schedule a really quick 45-minute call to just talk and find out what it is you're trying to do and determine whether or not I would be a fit for you. And I truly believe that if I am not a fit, it is in your best interest and mine to then advise you of that. This is not about just taking somebody's money. I truly believe that this is about service. So go to laurelrutledge.com and click on personal advisory and let's have a chat. You can also listen to my podcast. I have some things you can get a sense of who I am and kind of my philosophy. And that's the Rutledge Perspective. And you can find that on any place you get your podcasts. And it has just little short, quick tidbits about, different things around your career and how you show up and how you take care of yourself and how you make sure you got people on your side. So.
Okay, that sounds perfect. And I'll put all of that in the show notes to make sure it's easy for her to get to your website and check out your podcast for sure. And do you have anything else for our listeners before we go?
I think the big thing that I would leave with anyone who is in that position now where they're just feeling like, oh my God, I really don't want to go again, or here's another Sunday that I'm not sleeping, is you have a choice. You truly have a choice. And don't feel bad or put yourself down because it just doesn't feel right anymore. We all change over time and we all have options. And so don't let corporations, because corporations are in it to make money, and there's some really great ones out there, but the corporations are not about you. You are about you. And you do have a choice. Don't let them think you don't. You always have a choice. And so give yourself that gift of deciding what it is that you need at this time.
Okay, that's perfect. All right, thank you so much for listening today. And thank you again, Laurel. And we will see you on the next show.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. You did wonderful.
Thank you. Okay, I hope that was okay. I get in kind of in the zone and I don't really know what I'm saying.
No,
I hope it made sense.
You flowed perfectly. It was great stuff. Very good. Yeah. So I'll even kind of, let's see, Wednesday, probably beginning of next week, we'll have one out there. I'm going to post another one today or tomorrow. And so the next week sometime we'll have it out for sure.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah. I'll just keep an eye out, and that would be wonderful. And I will get you that bio. Like I said, he gave it to me. So I looked at it yesterday. I've got a couple things I'm tweaking, but I will send that to you today. So you'll have it.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Laurel.
Brian. I appreciate it. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.